to you. Good morning. It's the very last day of February. It is February the 28th. For all you February babies out there, your month is up, is over. There's no more days for you. Even if you were a leap year baby, there's no more days for you. Not this year. There's only 28 days, and this is the 28th day of February, so we can go ahead and count this one out. So thank you and appreciate you guys, you for being here at Consistency is Currency. Like I always say, it's your morning podcast of choice. And again, I appreciate you, and I say thank you because again, like always, you can be anywhere right now at 7:30 in the morning, but you're here uh, with me on this digital platform. It is early. It sure is for some of us that you know that get up early in the morning. That they say the early bird gets the worm. Um, I say the earlier you are, the more you get done. That's just how I see it. I ain't chasing no worms or nothing like that. But the earlier you get up, the more you're able to be productive and produce good work. Peace. Good morning. I don't know who it is. It just says Facebook user. So whoever that is, I say thank you and appreciate you for that. Good morning, because I'm alive and well, and I can see you just as well as you can see me. And I want nothing but the best for you. And I want you to have not just a productive day. I want you to have a day that you can learn from and learn how to duplicate that process. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right, so we're going to get into it. I got an early day. Peace. Got an early day today. Got things to do in Temple. So, all right, we're going to talk. We're going to talk about be deliberate. So let me put the caption up real quick because I want to know, like, what are your thoughts? Like, what's your answer to this question? The question that's proposed. This is today's question. Like, have you been deliberate enough about your outcome? That's a question that you can answer. Like, have you been deliberate enough about your outcome? The answer is either yes or no. There's nothing in between. It is either yes, I have been deliberate about my outcome, or no, I haven't been deliberate about my outcome. Because a lot of times we say it is what it is. So therefore, when it is what it is what it was. Because the way that I move with the intent and purpose of an outcome that I desire. Again, that's just me. But I move specifically with the outcome that I desire, because if I am seeking this to happen for me, then I must be doing things that is deliberately in line with what I want for and from the desired outcome. You have to move in that direction. There's no other way to move but in that direction, because if you want to design your fate, you must have a foundation, not just within your faith, not the saying it from a religious way, but have a design for your faith, because now you're holding on to the things that you want in the design of what it's going to be for you. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Mr. Tony, appreciate you. All right, so here we go. For those that know the platform, you're going to get definitions of words. You're going to get inverted definitions. If I say red over white, pay attention to the words that are in red. If I say white over red, pay attention to the words that are in white. And then we're going to go from there. But also, this is an interactive platform. If I say red over white and you see it that way too, go ahead and put how you see it. Go ahead and drop your jewel on how you see the inversion of red over white. If I say white over red and you see it that way too, go ahead and drop that. But if you see it opposite of how I see it, go ahead and put that. We're going to learn from each other, because we're going to be deliberate on how we communicate with one another. Not just today, but I want it today, because, like I said, I move with the intent and purpose of a desired outcome. So I'm going to ask you for the purpose of a desired outcome by you dropping what you drop in the comment section. All right, so the very first definition of deliberate that I want you to pay attention to. Well, yes, it says done consciously and intentionally. The first definition of deliberate is done consciously and intentionally. And the first inversion that I want you to pay attention to is white over red, done intentionally. Because being deliberate and being intentional, they're like cousins, if you think about it. Being deliberate and being intentional are cousins. But both of them you have work to do. It is an actionable outcome. It's not something, because you can consciously say something, but yet you put no truth to power. Yet you do not put your foot on the pavement and begin to action the item after you have thought about the process. So it is done intentionally. We have a lot of people that have conscious ways of doing things and have a subconscious that's even deeper than their conscious way of doing things, but they don't get the work done. They're great thinkers, but when it comes to actioning those things, the process of thought and the intentional actions, they really don't match, nor do they merge at whatever point. It's not a bad thing. I mean, you have people that are visionaries and you have people that actually are executors. I mean, you just got to know which one of those individuals you are. Again, the first definition and inversion that I want you to pay attention to is white over red, done intentionally. Like, how do you see that? How do you see this inversion done intentionally? Because again, if we're looking at red over white, it's really like consciously and you're stuck in that world of and, because you are great at thinking about it consciously. It stays inside of your head, but you have no true intentions on bringing it out of your head or bringing it into full fruition. So it stays in your head. You're at the red. You're consciously and nothing else happens after that. Nothing materializes after that. Nothing manifests after that, because it stays inside of your head. You're living inside of your head, and there's no fruit after that. All right. The next definition that I want you to pay attention to is this one. It says to consider carefully, to weigh well in the mind. To consider carefully, to weigh well in the mind. And the inversion that we want you to pay attention to is red over white. So red over white, it says to weigh well in the mind, because to be deliberate, that is a conversation that you have with you internally that then begins to develop into an outward action, because it's going to weigh heavy on you. Have you ever been in a space to where you knew you should have done something, you knew you should have said something, you knew that what you had intended on doing, that when it didn't happen, it starts to weigh on you? That's where that deliberate action comes from, because when you look at the way that the being deliberate is, like when you look at the etymology of deliberate, like the latter part, the liberate, that is Latin for weight. So when it weighs on your mind, it weighs on your consciousness on what should have been done. And then it allows you to actually have a do-over in order for you to make that considerable, careful move the next time you do it. But it's going to weigh well on your mind, because it starts within the process of your thought before you process the action. And before you create that considerable, careful decision, that is something that you have to do and to draw into yourself, draw nigh unto what you want to do. And then when you create that outcome inside of yourself, it has no other action but to be within your favor. But you have to think that way. It is a process of thought. And the last definition before we jump into the deep dive, I like this one. So this definition said the definition of deliberate says characterized by conscious design or purpose. Like, what does your conscious design look like? Like that's like a full-blown question all day. Now, you might not have the mental capacity to write it down right now, but I'm gonna say sometime today I need you to figure out like what's your conscious design. I can tell you mine, but I want to hear yours. Like, what's your conscious design? Because I consciously design my outcome like all the time. Like before I put it on paper, I consciously design it. I go within inside of my thoughts. I look at my thoughts. I examine my thoughts, and then I create what I want it to look like. Not just the outcome, but I design the process of thought and the actions that I'm going to take in order for me to fulfill the purpose. Because as you see within the definition itself, it says conscious design or purpose. If you're not fulfilling the purpose, then look at how you're designing your thoughts when you're in your head. It is a subconscious thing that manifests into a conscious design, and then it becomes tangible when you fulfill the purpose. And you're trying to figure out, why are these things not happening for me? Because you're not designing consciously what you want it to look like. Now, for me, sometimes I don't like to put things on paper because that's just where I am with that. But there are things I put on paper. There are some other things that I don't put on paper. Because when I design it inside of my head, my next move is to action it. Again, that's just me. My next move is to action it. My next move is to work it, not just work it out, to work it in and walk it through. But it takes a level of consciousness in order for you to design what that next move is going to be, and in order for you to what? Again, to fulfill the purpose. Like, what was your purpose and intent on doing this? When you figure out what your purpose and intent on doing this particular thing, you are going to have to be deliberate on how you execute it. Deliberate is an execution word. It is not something that stays inside of your head. It's not something that stays on paper. That is an execution word. All right, I'm gonna leave that alone. Not too many of y'all execute. You get executed and you feel a certain way on why, and asking yourself, why did this happen to me? Maybe it's your character. You see, it says characterized by. Like, characterized by who? You worried about what everybody else is saying, except you forgot that you have the final say. But you're characterized by what others said about you, what others have thought about you, what others said that you couldn't have done. Characterized by what? Characterized by what didn't happen to you the first time? Change it if you don't like it. Change the design if you don't like it, and still fulfill the purpose. All right, I'm gonna let that go. All right, so we're about to go into this deep dive. And peace. Good morning, Miss Barry. Peace. Good morning, Dr. Coffee. So let's go into this deep dive, and I want you to really take this in, because I'm gonna learn you something today. So deliberate thinking really allows us to break the cycle of a negative default thinking or self-sabotaging thought that permits us to have a growth mindset, because it can break the cycle of your sabotaging ways by when you are designing, because remember, it says a conscious design or purpose. So if you're having a conscious design, you're going to have to break the cycle when you didn't have a conscious design. And breaking that negative cycle allows you to break through that self-sabotaging thoughts that does not permit you to grow, but you're creating and designing what it is that you want that permits you to have that growth mindset. Because remember, again, deliberate is a execution word. It's not a passive word. It's not something that you're waiting for somebody else to say about you. It's not something that you're waiting for somebody else to do for you. It's not something that you're waiting for somebody else to validate you. It is a self-validating thing that you're taking and grabbing hold onto what design and purpose that you have for yourself, and you're developing that outcome. Because being deliberate is a reinforcing action of your thoughts. That's what it is. Like, can you consciously take that thing that is inside of your head and pull it out of your head and action it? It is a reinforcing action of your thoughts. I mean, it's like, some of y'all know how I feel about the word fear. Fear is not real. It is not. But you create it to be real. You create it because, again, like I always say, fear is a response to the thoughts that we're having. Fear is a response to the process of thought. It is not real until you give it life. It is not real until you breathe life into it. But being deliberate is a reinforcing action of your thoughts. I want to have this done today by 5 o'clock. You reinforce that action because you begin to backwards plan. You begin to make sure everything that you know that you need to be done before 5 o'clock, you reinforce that action through your thoughts by making sure that these things that you have set aside for yourself happen so you can have that particular thing completed by 5 o'clock. It is a reinforcement. It is an action word. It is the execution word. Because the more we grow to learn that we are in control of what we think about and how long we hold those thoughts, we can begin to take back control of our positive reinforcing thoughts and begin to tell ourselves that we are good enough. We are capable enough of being deliberate and creating an outcome that we desire. That's not waiting for you to tell somebody else or waiting for somebody else to tell you. That's you telling you. That's you having that inner conversation. That's you having that inner pep talk. That's you empowering yourself, not just through your design of thoughts. That's you empowering the purpose that has been already birthed inside of you. But you have to begin to develop the process of letting it out. Can you manifest your outcome? That's a question. You put that in the chat. Can you manifest your outcome? Let me flip it this way. Have you manifested your outcome? Some of us have, some of us are still working on it. If you're still working on it, say that. I'd rather you say that instead of you just say, I'm manifesting my outcome just to put it inside the chat. That does you no good. I don't care what I read, but it does you no good because you can't even see it nor believe it. But I'm going to tell you that you can manifest your outcome by actually practice. By practicing. Because being deliberate takes practice. So if you say, I haven't really manifested my outcome, practice it. Like, practice it in small increments. I want to have this done by 2 o'clock. If you get it done by 2 o'clock, then figure out what actions did I take that allowed me to get it done by 2 o'clock. Once you have completed that particular action, then you figure out what else do I want to accomplish. Then you practice being deliberate on that particular thing. It is a positive practice that focuses your attention on that particular task or action, and it's conducted with a specific goal of improving your performance. Deliberate takes practice. Because regardless of where we choose or how we apply ourselves, being deliberate takes practice, and it can help us maximize our potential. But the first thing that we have to understand when we're practicing on being deliberate, we're going to have to calm our minds. Because when you get inside your head, especially when you're practicing being deliberate the first time, or you're designing your conscious the first time, you're so far inside of your head that you don't see the light on how you're going to get out of your head. So first, calm your mind down. And no matter what card you're dealt, allow yourself to turn that potential into reality. Because that's where it's going to come from. It's going to be pulled from out of your subconscious mind and then turned into conscious and then designed how you want the outcome to be. And then you action that objective. Just try it. Try practicing being deliberate. Try it today. Like, what do you want to have done by 1:00? Well, now I'm going to ask that a question. What do you feel what thing that you have today that you want to have done by 1:00? If you haven't put any type of stipulations on how your day is designed, do it today. Practice being deliberate today. So what is it that you have to do today that you want to have done by 1:00? Put that inside the chat. What is it that you want to have done by 1:00? I want to have this done today by 1:00. Practice those small increments of being deliberate and then learn it. Well, acknowledge it first. Celebrate those small victories and then learn the process on how you did it. And then you become a lot more deliberate in what you do. But it's going to take practice in order for you to get there. Even if you're not successful the first time that you're being deliberate and practicing being deliberate. Because don't you know working out is a deliberate practice? Don't you know eating healthy is a deliberate practice? You might not have thought about it's a deliberate practice, but it is. Like, put truth to power. I want to have this done by this time. I want to eat like this, and the outcome, I want this. It takes deliberate practice for you to complete that thing that you say you wanted to do. It is that conscious design that you're creating inside of your mind in order for you to fulfill the purpose of the outcome that you want after you get finished working out, or the outcome that you want when you're eating a certain type of way. That's deliberate practice. Put deliberate practice inside the chat, because if you can't say it, you're not going to see it. If you can't see it, you're definitely not going to believe it. So tell yourself, I'm practicing being deliberate today. And then figure out what it's going to look like for you. And then execute it. And then once you finish that level of execution with being deliberate, and you're practicing of being deliberate today, then you will have more accomplishments than you have of goals. And I say it all the time. If you have more goals than you have accomplishments, you have a lot more work to do. You live in a good idea fairy. If your goals outweigh your accomplishments, you haven't done anything yet. You're inside of your head. You're still in that conscious, subconscious realm. But when you put your deliberate practice to work and you get that goal and transition it into the accomplishment pile, you've just completed a task. All right, I'm going to leave that alone. Oh, Tony said he want to get the roof painted. All right, Tony. I'm going to be in Temple today. You say you're going to get the roof painted. I'm going to be there today. We're going to see. I should come in the comments and tell y'all if Tony got the roof painted the next time. You know what? That's what I'm going to do. So when I see y'all tomorrow, 7:30, here at Consistency is Currency, your morning podcast of choice, I'm going to let y'all know if Tony painted his roof. We're going to wait for Tony tomorrow to come in to let us know that he painted his roof. Tony said that he's going to practice being deliberate today. So Tony said he's going to paint his roof. So when we see Tony tomorrow, we're going to see if Tony painted his roof or not. I think that's a fair bet. No, we ain't call it no bet. We're that. I think that's a fair outcome. Tony said he wants his deliberate outcome to be he has completed painting his roof. All right, we're gonna leave that alone. All right, Tony, the clock's on you, sir. He gonna paint his roof. But now I appreciate everybody for being here at Consistency is Currency, your morning podcast of choice. Let me know inside the comments your takeaway. Like, what did you learn today? Not just about yourself, but what did you learn today that you can action? Because remember, being deliberate is an action word. It's not something that stays inside of your head. Being intentional is an action word. It's not something that stays inside of your head. It's something that you have to actually do. All right, I appreciate y'all. Y'all be blessed. Peace.